meeting of, what is today, July 3rd?
July 3rd.
July
Third
3rd.
at order at 10 a.m. And one subject on the agenda, which is, again, to review the application for a off-premise sign by Roper Realty at the intersection, which is basically the driveway of Village condos.
Correct.
And Route 49.
Correct.
And I thought, Margaret, it'd be helpful if I copied out all the relevant sections of the planning code, the zoning here, that deal with signs.
Right.
The first issue is this 3511-3-1, which again is what Ray raised in the meeting, which caused us to pause. It clearly states, in my mind, that if you change the sign or move it in any way, the new sign must comply with the provisions of the regulations and a permit must be obtained. So from my perspective, there is no provision that would allow for grandfathering of an existing sign under any circumstance. Then the other section gets into, what is off-premise signs? What are the rules regarding off-premise signs? And it would seem to me that the first paragraph next to off-premise signs covers the situation therein, which says, in addition to on-premise signs, well, which would be fine. If they wanted to put it on their property, there'd be no issue here. Local businesses not within a business complex, and I presume they would be a local business not in a business complex. I don't know how you interpret what is a complex.
Well, they're using the same building as village condominiums
Right,
are using.
right.
I don't know if you guys consider that a business complex, but it was not. It was
Right.
never approved for that.
No.
So I would say you're correct.
I would say that they are not a business complex. Town
Correct.
Square is a business complex in my mind, maybe the only one in the village.
Mhm.
That local businesses not within a complex may list their business name on shared direction signs located at the nearest major intersection. And the issue to me is Route 49 in a driveway a major intersection? My perspective would be the major intersection here would be Triple I Road and
Or
Route 49.
Maybe Tecumseh.
Or maybe Tecumseh, and they could put a sign there that essentially said, Roper
This-
Real Estate, straight ahead, turn left 400 feet, if they wanted to do something like that.
Mhm.
But
But they have to share that with another business.
yeah, it would have to be it'd be part of the shared sign complex that's already there. But if they propose to do something like that, it would be okay. But to build a standalone sign
Or
at
move
the
their
intersection of a
existing-
driveway, it seems to me is really going beyond the shape of what this thing allows. Now, admittedly, and I've talked to Ray about this, I find some of this wording here at best to be confusing. But under any interpretation, I can't come up with something that would say that they would have a right to put a directional sign up at the intersection of 49 and a driveway. So that's kind of where, after reading this.
So the solution that we discussed about them hanging a sign below the village condo sign.
No problem, because it's on their property.
Right.
As
it's
long
on
as they
village
put it,
condos. Yeah.
what they put, if they put a sign on Village Condos property, there's no issue.
And that's because
It's
the
an
realty-
on-premise sign, and
it's
the
an
rules are
on-premise
different.
sign.
They are allowed to have 2 on-premise signs.
So, and they could even take the sign that they have right now and put it in the ground below the village property. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
They
because-
may have to cut the legs off, but
Because Terry had talked about the fact that she didn't think because of the slope of the land you could put a sign there, but Village has a sign there.
you can get a sign there.
I think you could get a sign in there. So that would be the situation in which they're putting in a business sign on the lot where their business is located.
Correct.
And that's
even though
been-
they do not
Perfectly
own the lot.
legit. Right,
Okay.
and that's not a
Legit.
problem.
Right, okay. And who owns the garden space where the sign used to be?
I believe the town does.
You mean where the village condo sign is?
No,
No.
across the street.
Yes, we also, where we probably own about half of where the village condo sign is.
Yeah.
Because the right of way that goes through there,
Mm-hmm,
okay,
mm-hmm,
the paved area
mm-hmm.
and the sidewalk is about a 50-foot from the center line, 25 feet from the center line to each side.
Mm-hmm.
There is a marker at the realty office which is 32 and a half feet off of the center line. I believe that marks the entire right-of-way, which would make it a 75-foot right-of-way. If you come off of the center line at the intersection, at the entrance to village condos,
Mm-hmm.
and you mark off 32 and a half feet, the spot where they had the sign is within that 32 and a half feet,
Where the sign used to
where
be.
the sign used to be. So I am assuming that it is town-owned property.
Okay.
Right, and on the
Because
other
that's our
side, at best, it might be owned by the sports center, right? I mean, there is a point at which it would probably transfer up to sports center land.
To
Or
Windsor
Where it
is
Hill,
right
to
now, you
Windsor
mean?
Hill.
That's
Yeah.
Windsor Hill? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to thin my
Yes,
mind.
Windsor
Okay,
Hill.
Windsor Hill.
Where it
Yes.
used to be, Bill, not
Where
where
it
it
Right,
is
where
now.
it used to be.
That's
Okay, so
Yeah.
that would be Windsor Hill.
Yeah.
Well, the
So-
regulations don't, I mean, as far as I know, the regulations do not in any way talk about one association renting space to another association for the purpose of erecting a sign, although in the other case, you'd have to get it off the road.
Right, but
I mean, I don't
where
even
they
know what
want
we
to
do.
put it is within that 32 and a half feet.
So
Right,
that's
so
why you're saying
that's
the
why-
town would have to authorize this.
I'm sorry, 37 and a half feet, and that's why the town would have to authorize
Right.
them to go to the ZBA.
Right,
Otherwise, if it's Windsor Hill land, then the Windsor Hill Association
would have to.
to write the letter authorizing them to go to the ZBA.
And what are we saying if we approve an authorization letter?
All you're saying is that they have the right to go to the ZBA, that you want to know what the ZBA thinks about this, and that you're going to abide by what the ZBA decides.
yeah, we were talking about this a little bit. There are basically different criteria under which you can appeal. What they're going to choose to appeal is we are misinterpreting these regulations.
Well, Bill, we have a book coming from NHMA.
Yeah.
There are some other standards
Oh, okay.
that the ZBA can meet. We're getting the official book
Right.
from the municipal association so that we
I thought
know.
financial hardship was
It
one of
might
them.
be
Right.
that the strict interpretation of the ordinance is not in the best interest, and they may have some latitude at the ZBA.
Right.
But we're going to get that book to make sure.
Right.
And it's specifically about appeals of administrative decisions. So their argument that you and I both think they might make, that they had it there before, that may be something the ZBA might be able to take into account. But I don't know until I get that book from
Yeah.
NHMA.
The problem is if there were not a statement 3.5.11.3.1, I'd be inclined to
Right.
take into account that, but this
That's right.
clearly
It-
says
I-
grandfathering is out of the question.
I agree.
And I'm struggling, and I don't see how as selectmen we could do anything other than say, you ain't grandfathered.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, the
what I'm
citizen
wondering
voted on
is,
it. I mean,
and what I'm wondering is whether in fact we should have that discussion on the record so that the ZBA knows why it is.
You're having it
We're on the record.
It's
Right,
being
right,
taped.
okay.
This
Yeah.
is a legal meeting, and you're being taped.
Right.
Well,
So
that's,
we'll have minutes,
that's why
so-
I just a very clear statement is that we believe that 3.5.11.3.1,
Yeah.
Right.
which was voted on
Right,
by town
right,
at, in a public session, that we as selectmen are required to honor
right,
that regulation.
right. It prohibits grandfathering.
And it prohibits taking an existing sign that has been grandfathered, moving it to a new location.
Mhm.
Basically, the grandfathering does not apply. The new sign has to conform. So under those circumstances, I don't feel we have any choice but to deny
Right.
Mhm.
the request.
Going to deny the request to move the
And
sign.
do we need to take a formal vote
I
on
think
it?
we do.
I think we do too.
You want to make a motion? Or-
I'll move that we deny the request of Roper Real Estate to move their sign to the former location based on the fact that that would be a violation of existing sign ordinances.
I second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Then Mark, we need to what? Issue,
Well, you need to decide whether or not you're going to authorize me to draft a letter
right,
stating that the Ropers can apply to the ZBA for the appeal from the
And that is
administrative
based on the
decision.
fact that the town owns the land.
Correct.
Correct?
Mhm.
And all we are authorizing is that they can make an appeal.
That's correct.
As the owner of the land, yeah.
Since town property is basically the property of all of the owners of the town, or we don't own it, and there's no such entity as the town. I don't see why in this case I'll make a motion that we would authorize Mark to write a letter allowing Roper Realty to go to the ZBA and appeal our interpretation of these regulations.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The other thing is, as the property owner, the town is going to be noticed on the ZBA meeting.
Mhm.
What do you want to do? Because usually the abutters or the landowner, we're the landowner, are you going to take a position, or is the position going to be your first motion?
I think the position will be our first motion in its entirety, because
Yes,
that
right.
encapsulates why it is that we made the decision that we did.
Okay.
And that
We might individually, I don't think as a town, representing the town, we can go in and make any argument that would support them. I mean, our decision is our decision. We could go in as individuals and say, that we, maybe these circumstances it's too tough to apply, but certainly can't do it on behalf of the town, I don't
No.
think.
Well, but I think it's important that I go to the meeting
Right,
and state the motion
Right.
that you made
right,
as the town. The
It's
town
the
should
town's
have a
position.
position.
right.
So I just wanted to make
Right.
sure with you that there wasn't anything you wanted to add to that.
Well, the only other
as
thing
far
that
as if the ZBA says, yeah, but well, what did the selectmen think? Should we, should this sign be there?
Well,
I
the
mean-
the other piece of information I think the Zoning Board of Adjustment needs to have is that there are alternatives
Yes. Okay.
to putting
Right.
the sign
We believe
where
there
it
are.
used to be. We believe that within the regulations there are alternatives that would allow them to, with village condominiums approval and permission, and to display the sign on the property where their business is located.
And I'll add to that they could also place a directional sign as part of a multi-sign display at the intersection of certainly Triple I and
49.
49 that would say Roper Realty 400 feet ahead, something of
Right.
that nature. They certainly are entitled to add a sign to that multi
Okay.
sign. I think that, both of those would provide them some remedy.
Yeah, the point being that there is an opportunity for them to display a sign about their
Right.
business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, about how to get to their
Yes.
business.
Right.
The regulations are quite clear that you're
Direction.
not supposed to be putting a sign up that does anything other than tell you the directions of how to get there. It's not supposed to advertise the business in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
Right?
That's pretty clear. So.
All right. Mark, I'll make a motion that we
Adjourn the meeting.
adjourn the meeting at
I'll
10:15.
second.
Right.